G'day and hello my zombie slaying peeps, it is Milmo here and I am back for some more informational video on the Armoury. Now essentially this one is just going to be about the best value upgrades that you can get in the basic stats, and what I mean by that, it's not going to be these big level 3 upgrades, not necessarily, because they are the ones where you have to wait for these very rare, ultra rare parts such as your duct tape, your polishing kits, your silver spray paint and all those things, which are very hard to get unless you've got a ton of 4-star weapons that you're willing to throw away into the Armoury to get those parts. Now essentially I'm going to start off with the basic stats and I'll move on to the specialty stats and we'll just keep going. I'm going to talk about the nice little value upgrades you can get until you're able to upgrade to that tier 3 or the level 3 stats, because let's be honest, those parts ain't freely available and they do take a while to get, and when you do get them it doesn't mean you're going to get the stat that you want on your gun. It can, or your gun or your sword or whatever it is, whatever weapon it is, it doesn't mean you're going to actually get the stat that you want or you'll be happy with what you get, and it can still fail. So what I'm going to just basically talk about now is some great little upgrades that you can do in the meanwhile that won't alternatively take away parts that you will need later on for level 3, and are also more than likely to succeed and give you nice little stats that will help you out until you're able to get those big level 3 stats, which is what we all chase. But unfortunately, just like a lot of top things in this game, they're not easily attainable, so this is why you're doing these ones. These ones are much more attainable, and they're, like I said, they're the best value for upgrades that you're going to get in regards to parts and things like that for your weapon while you're waiting for the materials and also the chance to get the upgrade you want at that level 3 stat. Now we're going to start off here. As you can see, I've actually researched the majority of my weapons, more green than anything, because they are the ones I use, but I will talk about. So we're going to start off essentially with the best one here is your attack one. Now for your attack one, I talk about level 2 upgrades mainly in here and some level 1 upgrades. Like I said, the level 3 ones are harder to obtain, so in the meanwhile these upgrades are quite nice to do. Now with the level 2 stats, as you can see here, you're not necessarily needing to use your super glue, because the success rate is already fairly just touching the green there, so it's already fairly high. And if you don't want to use your super glue to try this, then don't. Honestly, don't use it. Just use your critical rate there with the sandpaper. As you can see, I've got tons of it. It's a 2-star, so it's common. It's very common, so you get that for a lot of 2-star weapons and things like that, so I have a ton of that. So if you don't want to waste your super glue, don't use it, and honestly, you're more than likely it will still succeed even if you don't use it. And as you can see, the parts that we use them were mostly 1-star and 2-star parts, so you're not going to, I guess, lose any parts that you're going to use later on for those level 3 stats. Now if you want to go on to level 3 here, as you can see, what you need is duct tape. That duct tape's not always easy to find. The spray paint is a bit easier to find, so if you're able to get these things, then by all means go for the level 3, but it doesn't mean that you're gonna, as you can see, it's a small chance, where if you go back to the level 2 stats, you've got a medium chance, so you're more likely to get 20% attack and a critical rate on level 2, and when it comes to level 3 stats, you're more likely to get the success rate at 24, so you're only losing about 4% attack if you think about it from the level 2 to the level 3, unless you're one of those lucky ones that get the level 3 at critical rate, which you don't always. I've had it fail over 3 times in a row on me. So if you think about it, you're only really losing that 4%. You're more likely to succeed at the critical rate on the level 2 stat here and get the 20% attack than you are on the level 3 stat to get the plus 30% attack. So in the meanwhile, while you're waiting for those duct tapes and the spray paints and things like that, why not have plus 20% attack on your gun? Let's be honest, it's not going to cost you too much in materials. As you can see, most materials are quite easily attainable, and you get them from a lot of the 3-star weapons. At minimal, you'll get them from the 3-star weapons, which, unless you're holding on to those 3-star weapons, you more than likely will have a lot. And it's the same for your melee weapons here too. The only difference essentially with your melee and also with the required parts and the rarity they need is, of course, melees need the sheeted brass and range need the rolled steel. They're probably the highest and the hardest things to find, but as you can see, I've got quite a lot of them, and that's what happens when you going through you of 2-star weapons, and everyone should be dismantling them. You shouldn't be keeping them, just dismantle them and you'll get a ton of them. The more you do, as you can see, the more you obtain. Now, like I said, I definitely recommend it too. If you want plus 30%, more than happy for, go for it. But just remember, in the meanwhile, that plus 20% is going to do you a whole lot of good, I guess, if you want some attack on you. And now if we switch over, it's pretty similar story with the defense at the level 2 here. You get the plus 20, and like I said, you don't have to use that super glue. You do not have to use that super glue. Just whack on that sandpaper for the critical. You don't even have to use the super glue, and it will more likely succeed. I honestly, guys, it will more likely succeed. You'll get a success rate even without the super glue. I've done it plenty of times and still it has succeeded, and I do these things and try them out, so I'm not sort of giving you rubbish information. And as you can see, most of the parts that are required for it I have a ton of, and like I said, if you're dismembering your weapons, you're getting rid of those 1 and 2-star weapons, you'll get all those things and you'll have a ton of them to use. And it's once again pretty much the same for the defense. It's a lot harder to get level 3 defense at a critical rate, and like I said, you're only really, if you do the level 3 and you fail on the critical rate, you're only gaining 4% and you're having to use rarer parts. So just remember that. If you're looking for a nice little booster on a weapon, then attack and defense at level 2 is quite a nice little stat to be having on there, and it's really good to be having it. I've seen quite a few weapons. As you can see, 20% defense. I have a few of them at 20, and I also have some. That is actually a weapon that failed on me 3 times with the plus 24 HP. It failed on me 3 times. I was quite annoyed about that. So as you can see, I've got a lot of platinums, but I actually have resetted a lot of them because they keep failing on me, so I have to keep resetting them, which is quite annoying. And it's pretty much the same here with the melees. Sheet of brass again instead of the rolled, and then you got parts that are for melee weapons rather than range. But like I said, you don't even have to use your super glue for that one. All you have to do is whack on your sandpaper and you more than likely will get the critical. So, you always hear people talk about these great level 3 stats and things like that. Definitely the best value for level 3 stats in this game is your HP. It definitely has the parts that are much more attainable than the defense and also the attack. So as you can see here, you need super glue and spray paint. They're a lot easier to get them to than the duct tape and things like that you need for the level 3 defense and also attack. And all you're really using is the welding rod. As you can see, we got a laser sight there at the end, but you can actually craft them in your armory if you get it up to a certain level. So, that's definitely probably the best value level 3 stat you're going to find is the HP. But like I said, it can fail a fair bit. I had one of my reinforced katanas fail 3 times in a row, and I've had more actually fail in that. And so it can actually still fail, and you get 24%. So if you think about the level 2 also in the HP is a really good one in regards to getting that plus 20%. And look at the parts you're using. You're basically using all 2-star parts, all uncommon parts essentially you're using, and you've only got 1 3-star there, which is the open sights, which you can also craft in your armory. So level 2 plus 20% HP is probably more, I guess, best value packed in regards to the level 2 stats. In the basic stats, I probably rate that a lot higher than the attack and defense in regards to the parts that you're using. But then the level 3 is the same. It's using less rarer parts than it is for the attack and defense. So HP is not actually a bad little stat to be putting on either, your melee weapons or your ranged weapons. So it's very handy when it comes to Andrea because because her health is just barely in that 1000s, getting it up that bit higher into the 1200s, 1300s and things like that, depending on your leader and a few other things, is always nice. Giving her a bit more health is always nice. And because there are a few characters around that don't have really high health, that HP being so attainable and I guess one of the best value upgrades, it's always nice. And you just got to be wary of that when you're upgrading your weapons or when you think about upgrading the weapons. Just because level 3 stats are the ones that give you the highest stats, they get you to the legendary weapons and things like that, doesn't mean you can't find great stats and I guess great good value stats in other ones in the level 2 and things like that. Just be wary. Like the level 3 ones are the ones we aim for, but then of course when you're going for level 3, it cuts back on the success rate, it cuts back on the critical rate, and sometimes those are the things you want. The stat you want is that critical and you don't always get it. So just when you're I guess wanting to upgrade your basic stats and So don't hinder yourself by not putting stats on it. If you put level 2 stats on your, whether it's melee or a range, you can actually make a beast weapon, a beast platinum weapon. You may not get to that legendary, but you can make a fairly nice platinum weapon. If we move on to the AP now, the AP boost is actually one of those ones that really surprise you. At level 2, you have a chance of getting a large bonus to AP, whether it's attacking or taking damage is dependent. So the large boost is the +7, of course the +7. So this, I've actually got this on quite a few of my weapons, and it succeeds at critical rate a lot for me. I've not had it fail once yet, and so I've had it on quite a few, so I do use it quite a bit, this large boost. So the reason why I use the large boost is because the large boost is +7, and when you move on to level 3 stats, in regards to adding AP, which I'll show you in just a sec, I'll just show you the ranged one here, that you're only, unless you succeed at a critical rate on level 3 for the huge bonus, which gives you the +10, you're only actually gaining 1 point in. And once again, you got to use those rarer weapons. So essentially, I'll show you here the level 3 stats. Essentially, when it comes to level 3, as you can see, you need duct tape and polishing kit and epoxy resin, which is those rarer ones again. And that huge bonus will give you the +10, so that's what you're aiming for, the +10. But if it fails at critical rate, which, let's be honest, it has a very good chance of actually failing at critical, you're only obtaining that a very large bonus, which is only +8. This is all available at level 15 of your armory, so only +8. You know, it's only 1 point difference between level 2 and level 3 stats if the level 3 stats fails. So just be wary of that if you're going to throw these parts into it, that you can pretty much get a fairly high point ratio from level 2. But that is the armory done, and hopefully you enjoyed that, guys, and it was helpful. Thanks for watching.